Yeah, I'm recording too, John.
Richard, I'm going bald. I'm getting old.
You're not going bald. I'm fatter than you are.
I'm having intimacy issues, Richard.
Me too.
So we need to get some advertisements for Blue Chew. Basically, what I'm saying, Richard, is I miss the old days.
I get that. I do miss being thinner. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And together, we are once again speaking the language of bromance. And Shawn, it's been a minute, and I missed your face. And we talked about all sorts of things. We've never talked about love.
I need to watch this. What was that show again?
Staged,
yes.
With David Tennant and Michael Sheen on BBC.
I bet Michael never gets nervous. Oh, look, it's Michael.
Of course it is.
Richard, so I don't know if you've noticed. I'm sure you have. But I have been feeling extremely nostalgic the last 6 months we've done shows.
I actually have. Because you got a haircut and you were all kinds of salty about it.
I didn't like my haircut.
Last week.
Yeah. I had to shave my head.
It's fine. Stop it.
Stop
it. Stop picking at it.
And then I asked you, and you're like, you look more like a bro. Like, not a bro, like a bro. I was like,
That's
what's
not
that
what
mean?
Happened.
You're like, I don't know if we could be friends anymore.
That's not what happened at all. You were like, no, I think you look stupid. And I was like, you look fine. And you were like, no, I don't. Stupid.
But I think it all kind of stems from earlier this year or late last year. We talked about kind of around the holiday season about, days of old. We just recently talked a lot about our gaming history. We're coming up on 7 years of this podcast. And when you think about 7 years ago, I was in my 20s. I think you just turned 30.
I would have been 31, thanks.
Were you 31 when we started? I thought you just turned 30. Or maybe you were 30 when we started and then you turned 31.
That's entirely possible.
And I think what it all kind of stems from, Richard, is I just turned 35 this year. And I learned that 35 is the starting range for the early midlife. What they consider midlife is 35 to 52 or 54. So, Richard, I've entered the midlife of my life.
Hang on.
Oh, great. Now our hearing's going.
Damn it. Here, talk real quick. Let me see if I...
Can you hear me?
Keep going.
And I'm going and going and going and going and going. Still going. Still going. Still going. Still going.
It picks you
Almost
up
there.
A little
Almost
bit.
there. Is there a little echo? Little echo.
The mic's picking you up a little bit.
It won't be that bad. It'll sync up. So.
All right. Now say words.
Words.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. So like I said, I've turned 35 and been feeling nostalgic, kind of looking in the past. I'm getting older. I'm on the other side of my 30s. I'm closer to my 40s than I am my 30s.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm going to be 39 this year, Shawn.
Yeah.
You know what happens? You know what happens next? 40.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say your penis doesn't work anymore.
Oh my God, does that happen? Oh,
I thought it happened when you turned 35 because, like I said earlier, we need a Blue Chew advertisement. No, but it's, you start looking back and, we talked about our video game consoles and that was a completely different time. You think about how you consumed content and TV, stuff you did as a kid, all these things that do or don't exist anymore. And this really got me thinking about, it's a documentary that just came out and it's called The Last Blockbuster. This kind of came on my radar because Kevin Smith's in it, because we all know Kevin Smith ran RST Video or worked at RST Video. I don't think he ever ran it. They had a lot of people in this that I really liked. They had Brian Posehn, Doug Benson, Paul Scheer, Jamie Kennedy, Ron Funches, Darren
So
Hayes.
so a bunch of people from your childhood.
Yeah,
just adding to the nostalgia feels.
Exactly. And these people are all like 10 or 12 years older than me. So they've experienced this stuff even more than I have. Cause like, I don't know about you, Richard, but when it all started with a smaller, video rental place for me.
Oh yeah. Me too. There was what was it called? Stars
Video.
and Stripes Video.
Didn't know that one.
This one I liked because, well, it was a small place and it was like a block from my house.
Oh, nice.
So I just walked down the street and rent a bunch of videotapes, not DVDs, Shawn, videotapes, and off I went. Off I went to go entertain myself and have my good fun time.
So how was that with like you and your family? Did you guys have any kind of like weekly expedition there, or was it just you on your own?
I don't think like it wasn't ritualized. It wasn't like a ritual like, oh, it's Friday, let's go to the video store and get some videos and then we'll come home and watch and like crash through 8 movies in a night. But I will say that once video rental places started renting out video games, that's when I would say there was definitely like a ritual. There was a kind of a ritual to it. Like not necessarily every Friday, but most definitely whenever I was staying the night at with somebody, or if somebody was staying the night at my house and it was Friday, then we're heading to the video store and we're getting some goddamn video games and we're gonna go home and go ham on shit.
Would that have been the Nintendo, Sega?
That
era?
would have been the Super Nintendo, Sega, etching into PlayStation era. The reason I remember it going into the PlayStation era was because I would actually rent, if it was like a super special occasion, I would get to rent a PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
And
drop
then get
the 200 bones down to rent it.
Oh my God, that's so stupid. They're like, hey, you need to lay down the full price of this fucking PlayStation, so that way you got to lay down 200 bones as a deposit and then pay, I think it was like $20 to rent the PlayStation for like, I think it was like 5 days or something like that. And that wasn't including the price of fucking renting a game.
Yeah.
So you're in like almost $250 to rent like a weekend with your friends. And you're thinking to yourself, like, if my mom has, $200 to just like, park somewhere for a few days, why don't she just buy this goddamn PlayStation and then she could stop renting it?
Yeah. I only was involved with like the renting of a console once when I went to my uncle's house. I know. So back in the day, I didn't realize this because I kind of came out of the early years of all this. People used to rent VHS players.
Oh yeah, they used to rent VCRs.
Yeah, because it wasn't a very common thing. Like I'm from the
that
generation,
was like way back.
Yeah, because I'm from the generation like VHS was in the house. Like that's like the one piece of hardware that I remember being there forever. And it was something else that was really interesting about this documentary. So they talk about, in the early 80s when movie studios decided to start this VHS, like putting stuff out for home use.
Yeah.
They were charging like $100 for a cassette tape, for a VHS tape.
Oof.
I always thought that they charged that to these rental places because they were renting it out. It was like, that's what they had to pay.
Yeah.
But no, if Richard, you as a 20-something in 1982 want to buy a VHS player for $10,000, then you have to pay $100 per each videotape that you wanted.
Oof. You know what? It's no wonder that eventually we got to the point where people were buying 2 VCRs and allegedly people would buy 2 VCRs. They would put a video rental in one and then put a blank tape in the other one and then hit play on the first one. and record on the second one.
So you'd get some dubbed down version because you're recording from the TV.
Allegedly.
Yeah, and so video rental places kind of started from that. So you had like the small mom and pop shops. Like I remember Freeze's video in our hometown.
Okay.
And there was in our super, super small town next to our small town, there was some dude that had like a trailer that rented videos. And I remember getting some video. I remember getting.
Well, that doesn't sound sketchy at all.
It was super sketchy. So later on, I knew somebody.
Like all the boxes are just like blank. They're just like blank boxes with like white paper and titles
basically
written on.
Yeah.
Like Godfather and the F's backwards, and
there was like instead of like a
Godfather
porn section,
2, and it's spelled TOO.
The porn section was like this carousel that sat like in front of everybody. I do remember renting Battletoads a ton from that place.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just like a really shady. So I knew somebody that bought that property and moved in, and apparently the mirror in the bathroom was like a 2-way mirror.
Oh,
some spot was
great.
Some spot was scratched out so they could look through.
Oh, that's nice.
So Blockbuster came around and decided to clean things up.
It's funny that you actually bring this up, because there was a video place in town, Family Video, just like it's like close to the house. It just like, I think last month, locked its doors.
Oh, did it? I know it was still open.
So now, as far as I know, there is no place in town that you can actually rent a video aside from, I think, the public library.
Oh, wow. I know I haven't been there in a minute, but there's a small gas station in that small town that I'm originally from. They rented stuff there. So I don't know if they still do or not.
Yeah. I forgot gas stations. Some gas stations did that.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I remember going with mom to those places. I always got like wrestling videotapes. That was always the thing I loved getting. Like you get like WrestleMania 20, actually probably WrestleMania 12. But I don't know how much you remember Blockbuster, but I'm pretty sure it was either my 16th or 17th birthday. Like the age I had to be to get my Blockbuster card, it was like a rite of passage for me. I remember the day of my birthday walking in and getting my Blockbuster membership.
I think you
card.
could do that at 16, right? 16.
I think it was
videos?
16. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I got my license, I got my Blockbuster card, and then I was off renting. I never really rented too many games post like my regular Nintendo. But I remember going in there for movies all the time. Because that's what, when you talk about like our origin story, that's where I went to get Last House on the Left.
I would do both. Mallrats. I remember specifically renting Mallrats from Blockbuster. That was the first time I saw Mallrats. There was a friend of mine that was like, he was in town from Texas, and he was staying with me for like a week, and we were at Blockbuster, and he was like, well, what's this? He's like, have you heard of this? This looks pretty good. I was like, yeah, I get it. Why not? And that was the first time I saw Mallrats.
Was that at a Blockbuster?
It was at a Blockbuster, yeah.
Do you remember what year the Blockbuster came to town? Was it like 95, 96?
No, actually, I want to say, well, maybe. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. Say like 95, 96, because I would have been like 14, 15 then.
Yeah, because my mom and dad had a card there that we rented, and then I turned 16 in 01, right? 01 or 02? 02, I think.
Okay.
So that's when I started going there to pick up stuff. But, and like the last Blockbuster movie, what I really liked about it, because I don't know if you know the story.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the movie at all. We've just been like waxing philosophical on Blockbuster. So
it used to be that there was a Blockbuster opening every 17 hours, right? Like this was like if you would go back in time and talk to 2001, 2002, Shawn and Richard, and said, hey, you know what? One day, all of these stores are essentially going to be gone.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what? Are you fucking crazy? What are you smoking?
I'll tell you what. You want to hear something? You want to hear something cool? At one point, there were 300 or 400 Aladdin's castles across the U.S.
Yeah, you've
across the entire U.S. There were like 350 or 400. You know how many there are now, Shawn?
Just the one.
Just one right here in the town that I live in. We have the last Aladdin's castle.
And that
actually I think it's owned by Namco.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder why they keep it open, because I
have
hardly
no fucking
ever see
idea
in there. But like you think
and
about,
it's still there. Even after in a post-COVID world, we still have the fucking last Aladdin's castle.
But I think like arcades and stuff are having kind of a rejuvenance, because like the one here in town, they've got bowling, laser tag, they've got that like spider climbing stuff, and then they got a bunch of video games. And so it's a great place. You go in with your kid, you drop $20 for tokens, and then you play for an hour, and then they get some crappy toy and you leave.
Yeah, there's definitely been a resurgence of the mom and pop kind of arcade.
Yeah.
Like the corporate, kind of arcade. Like I said, like Aladdin's Castle has obviously gone the way of the dinosaur. So maybe we will see a resurgence in, I don't know. I feel, it's comparing apples to, a fucking Ford F-150, but
yeah, very much so. Yeah. Cause as I've pondered these disappearing, I kind of wonder like, what's the next thing? Cause like I said, in 02, 03, 04, probably even 05.
Yeah.
You would have been like, these things will be around forever, because Netflix was starting up. It started up in 97.
Right.
And a lot of people, and I think this, documentary does a good job of kind of explaining it, because a lot of people are like, oh, Netflix killed Blockbuster. It's like, no, not really. I mean,
not really. Netflix had its own Blockbuster type service, and I know that because I subscribed to it. I had the Blockbuster. They would mail you DVDs.
Yeah, they started that like late. I think they started like 08, 09, but the crash.
But you could get games through Blockbuster also, just like Because so there was Netflix, and Netflix was like, hey, you tell us what you want and we'll mail you a DVD, and then you watch it and send it back, and la. And then there was a couple different ones. The one I can think of off the top of my head is GameFly, which worked exactly like Netflix, just with video games. They were like, hey, you pay this flat fee and you set up a queue of video games. We'll send you one. You play it. When you're done, send it back. We'll send you another one. Blockbuster did this exact same thing, but they said, hey, we'll do both. We'll send you, DVDs and games. Like, you just set up your queue and we'll send them to you. And it worked exactly like the whole Netflix system. And I think they had the added bonus where you could take, like, let's say you got, let's say you got like Breaking Bad season 1 on DVD, and instead of returning it, like sending it back through the mail, you could drop it off at the store, and then they just register it, and then they send you the next thing in the queue.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good deal. I like Blockbuster had a decent model with that, but you're right. That Netflix wasn't what killed it. I think it was Netflix had their DVD by mail model, and Blockbuster had it and I feel was better at it because, it was a bit more convenient. However, Netflix was also had the streaming service that was very limited, and then just kind of slowly started to expand that.
Yeah, they were the first ones. I'm trying to remember in the documentary which one said which came first, because I felt like it was about the same time. I think Blockbuster came second because they wanted more options. So you had things like, 30 minutes of a fireplace was one of them I heard that was on there. But they were starting to push for that. And I think the biggest thing from, at least what I took away from the documentary that killed Blockbuster was in like the 08, 09, when they're trying to, push more into Netflix. They started that no late fees model.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, everybody hates late fees, but I think everybody also understands why there's late fees. Because when you took away the late fees, essentially now there's no incentive to have to take anything back.
Yeah.
And it was a former CEO or former like head of the company. He said that when they implemented that no late fees for Blockbuster nationwide, it dropped their revenue to a third. So they lost 2/3 of their revenue.
60% of your fucking cash just vaporized.
66% gone.
Damn.
Yeah, and you had the crash of 2008, and then just one by one they started to fall. I remember because Dish bought them in like 2010, I think. And Dish, I think, still owns the property. But I remember like there was like 3 here in town where I live now in like 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And so like one disappeared, then the next one. But I remember my father-in-law told me because that was basically what him and my mother-in-law did. Every Friday they'd go to Blockbuster. So this was less than 9 years ago at this point. Go to Blockbuster, they'd rent 3 or 4 DVDs, and then they'd watch them. That was just their thing.
Okay.
And when that Blockbuster said they were shutting down, I guess he told the guy that owned it, said, yeah, we still make a lot of money because of people like you who don't have any streaming or don't like buy DVDs or Blu-rays.
Right.
But Dish is just basically saying like, yeah, we're kind of done with this whole thing. It's not part of our future. And so they shut it down.
Oh.
And so when you look at like 2017,
cue the sad music.
Yeah. When you look at like 2017, I think there was like 9 or 10 left. And then in 2018, there was 4, I believe, 3 of which were in Alaska, and 1 was in Bend, Oregon.
Bend, Oregon. Why Bend, Oregon?
It's kind of interesting when you see the town. Like they interview a guy who is basically kind of like he's always gone to like this place. Like he's just because it started out as a mom and pop shop, and then Blockbuster came in and was like, "Hey, listen, like we'll let you be a Blockbuster, but if you don't want to be a Blockbuster, we're essentially just we're gonna basically put one up anyway."
Yeah, so we're gonna build one right across the street. Your fucking choice.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh, well, okay, we'll just change our name from whatever to Blockbuster, and we'll keep running. And so this guy he was talking like he walked in one day and it was Blockbuster. He's like, but nothing really changed. It was just basically signage. So it's been around there for like 15 or 20 years. As the main character of this is the general manager of Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, Sandy Harding.
Okay.
And she's been around this place for like 15, 20 years. And so basically up through 2018, there was 4 left, like I said, 3 in Alaska and this one in Bend, Oregon. In 2019, the other 3 closed.
I wonder, were the 3 in Alaska owned by the same thing?
same guy franchised.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it was just kind of like they weren't making money and they're just like they didn't have the customers. And you think about that time probably in Alaska, depending where they're at, it was probably situations where there wasn't the bandwidth. So this was just how people kept doing it. Yeah,
it 100% makes sense. Like why they didn't have why they had Blockbusters that were still like, doing okay in Alaska.
Yeah, because they still had a customer base.
Yeah,
but that's what blows my mind is like in a place like Bend, Oregon. I haven't done the research to see where it's located. It looks like probably a town the size of what we live in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they've got decent enough internet, and even then, so what's funny is it's not like she's going out and getting these obscure DVDs or Blu-rays. So the way Sandy does it is she essentially once a week or twice a week. It's once a week on Tuesdays on release day. She'll go to like Target, Walmart, all these local shops. So they have big stores in this town.
Yeah.
And she just buys the Blu-rays or DVDs that she thinks that her customers will want.
Oh, wow.
So she's going out and spending, $9, 10, 15, $20 on these DVDs and Blu-rays, bringing them back, renting them for $2, $3 a piece, and just supporting everything that way.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And, like I try to think about it. And like you talked about like the nostalgia feel of like arcades and stuff like that. As they showed this shop, like it looked like it was a Blockbuster. Like it reminded me exactly of what a Blockbuster was. I could almost smell what the Blockbusters smell like. Like the popcorn and plastic and
it kind of had that. It had like it almost made you wonder like did they actually like. Because I never saw like popcorn anywhere, but for some reason, like there was a faint hint of it, and I'm like, do they have a spray that they just like kind of douse the place in before they open the doors?
They sold like popcorn and snacks and soda.
Yeah,
and I think ours had a like a popcorn maker, but like you said, I never saw it running.
Never saw it function. Just sat in the corner, collected dust.
I've definitely changed my mindset now, but like back then it was a situation. Like if I went with my mom and dad when I was younger, you know, they'd have candy and stuff. Like, oh, can we get some candy? It's like, we have candy at home. Like, oh, okay. You know, you get home, it's like, where's the candy? Oh, we don't have any. Oh, but it's just that mindset of like,
damn it.
Yeah, but it's just
got
the mindset.
Me again. I'll see you next week, mother.
But it's that mindset of like, oh, well, they're way overcharging. Like, you know, those chocolate covered raisins are like 60 cents more expensive than what they are at the store.
It's absolutely true. It's almost like they charge the same price as if you were in a movie theater.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I've maybe bought candy from there like 2 or 3 times whenever I was with a girlfriend that was like, man, I could go for some, you know, chocolate covered raisins. I'm like, oh yeah, get you some chocolate covered raisins.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then let's go watch Last House on the Left. I hear it's hot.
It's not hot, Shawn. Shawn, it's not hot.
It's not. But no, like you think like, and I thought about this too, because like we talked about this movie and you're like, well, what streaming service is this on? I was like, well, it's on Netflix. And you didn't even realize that.
Nope. I had no idea.
You know, there's just like, and it wasn't even suggested to me. Like I had to go find it. So it was almost like it was suggested to me via a real life person and not some kind of algorithm.
Yep.
Which is exactly what you get when you went to Blockbusters.
You know what? Actually, you're absolutely right, because at Blockbuster, or just any video store in general, like you walk in and then there was like a section that had like new releases.
Mm-hmm.
And so you knew like what had just come out, and then everything else was organized by genre. The way I remember ours was you had new releases and it was organized alphabetically. So all the new releases were alphabetical. And then everything else was organized by genre and also alphabetical. So basically, like what you did is you went and you stood in front of this giant fucking wall of goddamn box art, and you just kind of like, you know, like scanned down the sections.
Yep.
And then maybe you saw something, maybe you'd see a box that had like cool box art, or you saw box art of that had like an actor that you really like, and you were like, oh, what's this? I know Kurt Russell. What the fuck is this? What's he in?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about that point in time too, like the internet was around, but it wasn't like you saw trailers on TV. So it's very realistic that you could have missed a movie being out in theaters.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, like, yeah, this movie with Kurt Russell that was out 3 months ago shows up. You're like, wait, he was in this thing? Well, we're going to fucking watch this tonight.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I really like Kurt Russell.
I think
I'll watch Howard the Duck Part 2. Why the fuck not?
What I really love about like going back in time to think about that too is it was very much, and the documentary talked a lot about this, is, you know, like you remember like going to Blockbuster with that person that it's basically like a date. It's like, we're going to get a couple movies. We're going to go back to, you know, whichever place, we're going to watch these movies.
Yeah. And
it was almost like you were figuring out the compatibility with this person while you're strolling through the store.
Oh yeah. I know. I mean, I can't recall me ever doing that, but yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I want to watch, you know, Friday the 13th, and they're like,
yeah.
Oh, I want to watch The Notebook. You're like,
Get out. You're renting that yourself. You're using your own goddamn card.
Walk up there, it's like, all right, I'll get it. Oh, Shawn, Notebook for the 4th time, you get it free. No, I've never rented this. Must have been my sister. Fucking makes me cry every time.
One thing that I feel like I should mention about Blockbuster, I don't know if this was true for all of them, but I know it was true for ours. No porn section. However, the video store that I was just talking about earlier that had just recently closed did have a porn section.
But wasn't it like super softcore porn?
No, it wasn't like Cinemax stuff.
Oh, okay.
No, it was actual porn. Like some of it was actual porn.
I felt like I went into that one in college, and it was all kind of like
so strange though to like watch like because obviously you do it. You're like I want to rent porn. I want to see what this is like. So you rent it, and then you're like, and then you're watching it, and you're sitting there and you're going, why is there story in this? But
I've always been kind of alluded to that they're like those are the best ones. This was story. Like Debbie Does Dallas is the classic.
You know what? That's absolutely true. I rented this one that had vampires in it, and there were vampires and vampire ladies, and they were biting dudes and sucking them off, and it was just this whole big thing. And then there was a girl, and she, was trying to resist being a vampire, but there was a guy she really liked, and they did a lot. And
is this the Lost Boys?
It was very Will They Won't They.
Yeah.
No, what was it called? What was it called? The title of it. Well, fuck. I think it was called like Porno Gothic or something.
Well, I always love those because it's one of those things when they get to like the sex, you're like, well, I got to fast forward through this so I get back to the plot.
This just seems unnecessary. You have somewhere to be, young man.
But yeah, no, the Blockbusters, I think it was a corporate decision not to have that kind of stuff in there.
Yeah, no back room.
Because, yeah, I remember, like I said, that one place that was in the super small town, porn was on a carousel.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other places, there was like this beaded room with like bells on it. So it made like a shit ton of noise as you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're walking in or out, it made a bunch of noise. I do remember because that was always like the thing when you were a little kid is you went to the video store and then you saw the like the back room porno section and you just look at that doorway and you'd be like that's where they keep the boobies at. And the first time you went to Blockbuster you're like I wonder where the porn's at. And you're first time you go to a Blockbuster and you're looking around like what's that door? Oh, that's a bathroom. What about that door? What's that door? Oh, that's the employees only room. Is it the only employees only room? I bet that's where they do it.
I always just assumed that there was like a super secret adult door somewhere in the floor. And it's like, all right, kids, go check the kids section. Hey, where'd mom and dad go? Yeah, well, I always liked the places.
I bet they're doing it.
I always liked the place with the loud stuff because you'd see somebody go in and out and you just kind of look at them and be like, sinner.
Sinner. Shame, I know your name. Mom!
You fake a tear, you're like, Jesus is crying. But yeah, it's so I always remember going with like a girlfriend like Friday night after I got off work, picking up like a couple movies. So it'd be like maybe one or two for Friday night. And if not, you'd watch two on Saturday night. Because about the time I got my PS2, I was able to rent Blu-ray or DVDs that way too. So that kind of opened up a whole new world. It was like, oh, we don't have to watch this in the living room. We can watch it in my room.
And then what?
And then, Richard, my mom said no.
Yeah, because she's like, now shut your door so I can watch my movie.
Yeah, she's like, hey, you kids be
quiet.
I
didn't see you leave the store with a movie, Mom. Don't you worry about it.
She says, hey, you kids be quiet. I'm trying to watch porn. And slams my door. Like, oh, this is awkward.
And put on a shirt.
What are you doing under the covers? We're taking a nap. But yeah, so there's one. So the other one's closed down, and this is the last one standing in Bend, Oregon. So like Doug Benson and Brian Posehn talk about that. Doug Benson actually went there. He actually had his Blockbuster card from way back when.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Which I wish I don't know. I bet if I look, I might be able to find mine. I might have thrown it away, but like that's like a piece of memorabilia that I would.
I don't feel like that's something he kept on purpose. I feel like that's something that he's just like, oh, Blockbuster card still in my wallet after 20 years.
Doug Benson looked like super messed up through the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. No, I think he just does weed, but like he looked like super high through the whole thing.
Yeah, that I believe.
Because he like shows up and he's like, "Oh, look at the Blockbuster sign. Gotta get a selfie."
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But hopefully he's okay. I don't even think he was meant to be in the documentary. He just showed up in Oregon.
They were like, "Hey, isn't that?"
He's like, "Hey, do you guys have my movie here?" They do. It's next to Super Size Me. I did that on purpose, so when somebody came for Super Size, they'd see my super high and then get it.
And they'd be like, "Oh, were you in a movie?" And then you're like, "Yeah, it's called Super High Me."
Get it?
Because I have a problem. Then he breaks down, starts crying.
Yeah. Like, I wanted to be Tom Cruise. But so, like I said, it's the last one out there. So 2019 is when a lot of this was shot. So this was all pre-COVID and everything. So they were open, running as normal. And Sandy talks about, like, so it's actually pretty busy in terms of like, Friday nights, they still get a ton of foot traffic.
That's awesome.
It is. And like, honestly, I believe if there were still some of those open, like the Family Video in our town, I'm pretty sure they still had a decent number of people that would go there.
I mean, there's a reason that it was still open.
Yeah.
There are other ways people can get DVDs. We have those, there's like 3 or 4 of them in town, but they have those red boxes.
Yeah.
Where you go and you put the money in and you push a bunch of buttons and then the movie pops out.
Yeah, and it's like $2, and then if you take it back the next day, you don't get charged a late fee.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
But I mean, you think about, like, I try to think in my head, okay, why would I get out of my house, go to a store, rent a movie that I'm going to have to bring back, watch, then take back when I could just rent it on, like, I could watch it on maybe Netflix or watch it on something else.
Right.
And I think what I came to is that, like, if I'm sitting at home and I pull up, so like we talked about this, we got Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Amazon, Hulu. So first off, now you have to pick, okay, which one of the 5 am I going to explore for my video watching experience?
Yep.
So there's time invested there. You're going to dig through whichever one and maybe find something, because it feels like you just settle on something.
Oh, whereas 100%. It's honestly, it's become very much akin to like when you were sitting in front of your TV and you were channel surfing and you were just click, and then finally you just like stopped at something and you're like, whatever, this is fine.
Yeah,
I'll watch Saved by the Bell again.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Oh, Zach, you're up to such shenanigans.
Yeah.
I hope Mr. Belding doesn't find out, or he found out.
And then when you actually search around, you're like, holy shit, Batman! Damn it!
Yeah,
I wasted my time on Saved by the Bell.
Yep. And then you realize that, like, you realize that moment that you were on Batman, it was actually on a commercial, but you didn't have the patience to stick around and see like what was coming up.
Oh yeah, you're talking about like pre-guide situations too.
Yes. Like you'd hit a channel, you'd be scrolling through channels, and then like a commercial, and then you're like, oh, I wonder what's on this channel. I want to wait. Click. Click.
Minute and a half. Actually, no, I bet there's more commercials now because of that. Because we have the guide. Because it used to be you'd want like 3 to 4 minutes of commercials between breaks so you could get people's eyes back on the show and get them stuck.
Well, see now, not now, but like now that they have the guides and stuff like that, what I've done or what I see people do is they'll pick like 2 or 3 things to watch, like at least 2 things to watch, and then when one goes to commercial, they'll just flip back to another thing.
Yeah, do the recall because they'll be recording both of them.
Yeah, and they'll just kind of like DVR. They'll just kind of flip back and forth.
But like I thought about this. So why would I go to a Blockbuster? And that's because it's an event. It's a treasure hunt. You're going for a specific purpose. You're going to leave that store with what you're going to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you go there with your significant other. And like I thought about this too. So like my wife and I, she's not big into movies or anything. But like, let's say we have a Friday night to ourselves. What we're going to do is we're going to sit there. We're going to flip through Netflix. I'll be like, what about this? No. What about this? No. She'll be like, what about that? I'll be like, no. And so you're basically doing like the blockbuster searching, but it feels like such a waste of time that it's more aggravating to me anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to Blockbuster, you can split up and you could find a movie a piece. Like, well, I kind of want to watch this. Well, I kind of want to watch this. Okay, let's get these two and watch both of them.
Yeah, it's almost like, in a way, it's almost like you actually spend more time. I would argue that maybe you spend more time watching the actual things because, like you said, like you split up and like you get something and they get something and you end up watching both. Like usually you wouldn't sit there, like if you guys were sitting on the couch and you're like, well, I want to watch this thing. Well, I want to watch this thing. Well, I mean, we could watch both, I guess. And like you're watching one and in the, like, let's say you watch the thing you want first. And while you're doing that, she's like scrolling through her phone and like 100% not paying attention. And you're watching this and you're interested, but they're completely checked out. And then roles reverse. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to watch my thing. All right, well, I'm going to do some laundry real fast.
Yeah, but if it's a Blockbuster movie you rented, there is an investment there. We've gone and searched for these two things, and we've made an agreement. I'll watch your thing if you watch my thing.
Yeah, and there were like, I mean, I guess maybe the distraction thing is not really Blockbuster's fault, but it does say that, like when you were younger, or like when you didn't have like, a screen and like right in your hand that you could easily be distracted by, that you were probably more invested in what you were watching, even though it was something that you might not be into.
Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, you might like flip through magazines or something like that, but yeah, you would.
But I would say that seems almost more insulting when you're sitting on the couch watching a movie and you look over and they're flipping through fucking Better Homes and Gardens and be like, what the fuck?
Jabba the Hutt's about to show up. Like, show some respect.
Get that you don't want to watch it, but this is almost insulting.
And could you at least look towards the TV? Yeah, and I mean, seeing that store, like all of them look very similar. And and it's also so like, today, like watching movies and stuff, and this is probably where it's like, what's the next thing to go? It's become a more isolated event. Like you think about with Blockbuster, these movie rental places, like you went and talked to people.
Yeah.
You went and saw people. You said, hey,
do you have this thing in yet? Hey, when's this thing coming out? Do you have any copies of this thing? Did somebody just turn in something and
you ask the cashier, like, I really like Navy SEALs. Like, do you have any suggestions? And like, yeah, sure. What about this or this or this? And you're like, oh, is this any good? Have you seen this yet?
And then they had the staff picks. That's right.
Yeah.
You remember the staff picks where there was like one little shelf for each employee and they put like their favorites on there?
I really wish I would have tried to work at like a Blockbuster. I kind of regret like if I said like, high school level jobs I wish I would have done, probably like a Blockbuster and then like a movie theater.
Okay. I think I
would have enjoyed working at one of those two places.
You know what I would have liked about working at a Blockbuster and or movie theater was all the fucking like accoutrement that came with it. Be like, I want the, hey, when we're done using the 7-foot fucking cardboard bust of Arnold Schwarzenegger, can I put that in my room? And they're like, yeah, with fuck ever, we're going to throw it out anyway. And you're like, sweet.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
I had my uncle worked at a movie theater for a little bit, and I had in my room, it was so big it took up in almost an entire wall end to end. It didn't, it wasn't as high, but it was definitely like the length of the wall. But it was this giant banner for The Shadow, the movie The Shadow with Alec Baldwin.
Oh, was that late 90s, 2000?
Yeah, it was based on more like mid 90s. It was based on the old comic book.
Oh, no, that's not what I was thinking of. Yeah, that came out in 94. That'd been a badass looking.
It was all black, and it had this little logo on it, and it just said, "Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men." Yeah, it was good.
But I mean, even too, like, so later in like the early 2000s, I kind of started collecting DVDs a little bit because that was a thing people did for some reason.
No, I get that. I still have the decent amount.
I've really like cut back on that because I've like the last time I've opened up a DVD and watched it's probably been like 10 years.
Oh my God, me too. The last time I looked through any of the DVDs I own, it's been a minute.
I've basically like shipped a bunch of them. So my in-laws have like a cabin at the lake, and if it's a bad day, they've got like a DVD player and a super small TV. So I've basically like shipped all of them there. So like in the situation where it's like, you know what, it's rainy, we can't do anything. What am I going to watch? I'll be like, how about Young Guns 2? But like if you worked so like I know movie theaters, you got to see the movies like before they even came out because you had to test the screenings.
Oh yeah.
And I've always heard they were basically like a bunch of like just like party atmosphere. Like they got free food, somebody'd bring drinks. Like it was probably a good thing I didn't work there because I probably would have just gotten a lot of trouble. But still seems like it would have been fun.
I don't see you being the kind of person that's like, I'm gonna get in trouble. You're not. That's not your type, bud.
That's true. I'm like, what would Leonardo do? And then the girl
go ninja.
The girl sitting next to me is like, Shawn, I'm not into you. I'm like, sure, you're just playing hard to get. But like at Blockbuster, you know, whenever they're getting like, because you know you could buy movies there too, right? So like after they got through, like, you know, you get 5 previously viewed DVDs for $20.
Yeah,
and I'm sure if you worked there, you probably got even slicker of a deal.
That's true.
I always loved like you'd see in people's collections. It's like, oh, cool. Oh, Blockbuster. Cool. Somebody went on a
like, who bought
spree.
the entire collection of the Prophecy movies? The first one was good. The second one, the other two were terrible.
But I kind of like tying it back to what we talked about at the beginning of this, where we're like, you know, if you would have told us in 02, 03 that Blockbuster would be no more, we would have been like, you're stupid. So like I'm trying to figure out as I'm watching this as it's coming to an end, I'm like, what's the next thing that we're going to look back on, you know, 5-10 years from now and be like, you know, we used to do this, and it be something that might still be around but not as common. And I kept coming back to movie theaters.
You think movie theaters are going the way of the dodo?
Not necessarily the dodo, but like what we talked about last week. Like
I'm sure you're going to see them dwindling down. I think maybe the era, honestly, like I would probably put movie theaters maybe in the same category as arcades, where you're going to start seeing much less of a corporate presence, and you're going to start seeing a lot more small, intimate, like mom and pop theaters. I think that the era of like large theater chains is probably done.
Yeah, because I know the Texas one.
Draft House, Alamo Draft House.
Yeah, they filed for bankruptcy.
They did.
Which doesn't mean they're gone, but doesn't mean good things. I think,
but I mean, I think that they have a great business model, and I can totally see Draft House bouncing back. I can 100% see it.
Yeah, once you're able to get stuff back going, which we're getting close to. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, like you said, it might be smaller, intimate, like 20-seat places where it's a meal and a drink, or maybe it's more of a party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Draft House does like they do a lot more like kind of theme screenings. They do a much more intimate screenings. Sometimes they do screenings with like cast and crew, and then do like stuff afterwards. So it's much more. They make I can see them surviving because I think that they make screenings much more of an event.
Yeah, so that might work in a place like. In like bigger cities.
Agreed.
But because like here in town, the theater we have here, every Sunday and Wednesday, they'll do a flashback movie. So like during 4th of July, they always show Jaws. And then like Halloween time, it's Halloween, you know, The Shining. Like they have all these kind of themed movies, and there's barely anybody ever there. Like maybe 15 people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so like you're talking about these special events, you know, it's going to be situations, I think, where it's like, oh, we're going to have The Shining, and here is so-and-so from The Shining.
Yeah.
You know, where it's almost like a comic.
Jack Nicholson, a handkerchief he used to wipe his nose when he was out in the snow.
Yeah, held by the Grip's great-grandkid.
Yeah.
I remember Pop talked about Jack Nicholson. He said he was an asshole.
The guy that painted icicles on Jack Nicholson's frozen corpse at the end of The Shining.
It was hard work. Jack Nicholson had to keep his eyes open for 26 hours.
He was an asshole. Fuck that guy.
But I mean, like the ones here are still open, and they've had small amounts of people, so they're still going, even though there's no movies out. But and that's, I think, if I had to say like what's going to hurt the most is when that becomes like right now, like if on a Tuesday you want to go see a movie, there's an opportunity for it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with like Alamo Drafthouse and like drive-ins, it's like, oh, you can only go Thursday and Fridays.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's what you're probably going to see more if they still exist. Like you're going to have only 2 options and 2 times to go see this movie.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's entirely possible. I mean, well, I don't know. Like I said, I think that, you know, I think that theaters have a much better shot of going like we said, like arcades, where there's going to be much less of like large theater chains, and it's going to be more like like your local theater is doing a screening of some movie from the 80s that you know, kind of remember.
Yeah, I just feel like this one, it felt like they were like with Blockbuster, they were kind of hanging on day to day. Like, yeah. So with this, so Dish still owns the Blockbuster name, and I think they get renewed each year on if they can keep using the name or not. And like at the end of this, she gets a phone call from them. They're like, "Oh yeah, totally, you can keep using this. It's fine." But like with, you know, you think of like these specialized theaters, like, you know, if it's somebody putting up all this money and they're barely making it, it's like, listen, nobody's going to buy this from me. Like, so, I mean, that's where I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, you know, like in 10, 15 years, like, is anybody going to buy?
Yeah, it'll be like owning a record store. Like, yeah, oh, yeah, it's cool. Let's go get a record. But it's not, you know, it's not something that's, you know, breaking the bank. You're just kind of surviving with it. And I almost feel like you might see a more corporate aspect to it, where you'll see a Disney theater, you'll see a HBO specific theater. So it'll be like a 2-screen theater with that intimate setup. But, you know, for $50, you get to be the first person to see, you know, the Batman on Thursday night.
that's an entirely plausible scenario. Honestly, like what I think. So there was a place in town. Used to be a theater. It later got converted into a bar/restaurant, but they kept, I think it was like a 2-screen theater, but they kept one of the actual theater.
Is this the Dollar Theater?
Yeah.
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 I saw Waterboy there. Saw Titanic.
The place in and of itself isn't. I think it's only open now. I think it's only open for like special functions. I mean, you could blame it. You could, because I mean, the place itself kind of went dark, like, you know, a couple of years before COVID. So you can't really, you know, but I could definitely see theaters like refitting themselves as restaurants. And they just, you know, there's also a theater screen.
Potentially, yeah.
Like basically just kind of shift the focus from it being a theater to being a restaurant that also has a theater.
Yeah, it'd be like a Dave and Buster's model. Like it's an arcade, but it's really a restaurant.
Yeah, yeah. And they're both shit.
They are. And that's what I would see, like theaters, if they did that. Like it'd be like, oh no, we're you know, like the Alamo Drafthouse, but we serve shittier food and it's sticky. and the movie we're showing is.
And I think that is going to be much more detrimental to the overall reputation of theaters. It's going to be those pocketed places where, like, hey, we do food badly and also show you movies that you barely remember.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, right now you look at it, what Netflix is doing, what HBO Max is doing, they are training us not to go to the theaters anymore.
Yeah.
And, like, so let's say all this, and this is kind of like us guessing at this point, because I think theaters going away in terms of how they are now is not a good thing. Like, I feel like that's, it's like going to a concert, I love going to a concert and being with people.
I do too. But I mean, there's definitely a difference between a concert. The concert is a much more unique, what's the word I'm looking, almost bespoke experience.
I mean, like you talk about going and seeing like Avengers opening night, like the crowd makes that.
Yeah.
Like I can listen to, Guns N' Roses live and get a feel for what it's like, with super great headphones these days, right? Like I can feel like I'm there. I can even watch videos of it. But being there is completely different. Same thing as like me watching, Avengers on my laptop by myself, like, is one thing.
Yeah.
Watching it with a crowd of 100 to 200 people is completely different.
Yeah, I'd agree. Was Avengers the last? No, Avengers. Oh, God. The last movie I saw in a theater, I think, was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, because I saw Suicide Squad before I went and saw that Santa movie.
You got to at least cleanse the palate before it's all over.
Yeah. And that's, oh, man. Because, I mean, that makes me so sad to think. Like, now movie experiences is completely isolated. Like, you go to the movie and you leave, like, you're talking to people about how cool it was, or you go with somebody and talk with them. Now, like, when tomorrow, the Justice League movie comes out, and we're going to watch it and we'll talk about it. But I guarantee if I'm watching that movie with a crowd of people, I would have a much different, like, communal experience than I am going to be by watching it by myself.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. 100%.
But
I
guess
you're not gonna feel so not isolated. Well, I mean, I guess isolated.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going to. Like, we're gonna consume our media in a more isolated fashion,
in a more intimate, a more private setting.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're all, you know what, Shawn? Here's what we're doing. You ready? We're all going to the back room. That's what we're doing. We're all going to our own back room and getting our things and coming out, and other people are looking at us and shaking their head.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
Justice League, the Snyder cut.
Well, instead of saying Shane, they're saying no spoilers.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
4 hours.
God, I just made myself sad because I am thinking that the idea of like a 2-screen, or like these theaters that are 8, 12 screens, they will end up selling like sections of it. So like this will be the Disney screen. This will be the WB screen.
I mean, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. I don't know what I can see happening. Because again, you don't know. Like I said, like if people are like, you're going to never need DVDs or Blu-rays again. And they'll be like, you're an idiot. And they're going to be like, you're never going to be in a theater again.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
You'll see one last good movie. I know you will. And I don't know what that movie will be, but you'll really like it.
Yeah. When do you think
it'll be Batman? That's what it'll be.
Yeah, Batman will be the last chance for them to say like if theaters will make it or not. So do you have like in your head a timeline when you think theaters will be essentially not a norm? We're like, the next phase.
No, I don't. I mean, I think that honestly, and I don't want to. I'm not writing off theaters really at this point. I think that we're still like I think that we're still months away from finally coming out as a general public. We're just starting to like come out from under the fucking bushes. Like give us a second to let us get back to a sort of normal routine before we decide whether or not things need to change.
Yeah, I think the next 12 months. So when you're looking at when Batman comes out, what's the reception for something like that? Will be kind of telling if it's like, okay, this is going to be around for a little bit, or if that's kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Because, to be fair, I think, in 2017, 2018, besides the Marvel stuff, like movie theaters weren't doing very well. Like MoviePass, like we talked about this when we first kicked off, or before we even kicked off, MoviePass really helped theaters a ton.
Yeah.
Because people were like, oh, I'm going to spend $10 a month. I'm going to go see 4 movies a month. And so, movie theaters numbers went through the roof.
Well, and I think that it was getting increasingly, it was becoming there was getting to be a increasingly more expensive paywall when it came to going to a theater. Like, Shawn, I have 3 kids. For me and my wife and 3 kids, if we all want to go see a movie, if by the time I get through the door, get snacks, and sit down at my seat, I'm in probably close to $60-$70. And I'm lowballing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was going to say like 100 easy.
It's probably closer to 100.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it takes a lot, it takes a lot for me to get the family out to a theater.
Oh, 100%. And especially when there's more convenient things too. Like even before everything was kind of coming on like HBO and stuff sooner, like it's like, well, like let's all watch a movie. It's like, okay, let's see what's on there. Well, why don't we just rent this movie that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah.
I'll spend $15 to rent it instead of on video on demand. However, instead of going to the theater.
The funny enough of it. The funny thing is so far though, and I'm sure this is probably true for most people. Like, like I said, like I'm dropping $60 to take the family to go see a movie. And then Disney Plus is like, hey, you can watch this movie, like the day of release. And all you got to do is pay $30 on top of your monthly subscription. Like, let's say you're a subscriber, all you got to do is pay an extra $30 and then you can watch this movie. And you're kind of like, no, $30 seems kind of high.
Yeah. But if you go see that movie in theaters, you're dropping 3 times that amount.
Exactly. But it's and then these companies turn around and they blame it on the movie, and they're like, well, there's a reason why, like they're supposed to save they're supposed to fucking save the theater.
Yeah, well,
it's like oh God, what's that stupid asshole's name? Nolan with fucking Tenet.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I'm going to put 10 out in theaters and you watch, everybody's going to come a-running. Shawn, they did not come a-running. There was nobody a-running.
Well, I think he's like, shows the inflated, like, Nolan thing is more of like when people, like, don't have anything, other options. It's in the middle of summer. It's like, oh, sure, Nolan, he made that Batman movie that I hated. I'll go see it.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, but now, like, At this point, like what movies have been put out digital only behind a paywall that people have really like clamored for?
The biggest 2 were very early on was Scoob, which did really well. And
was Scoob behind a paywall though?
Yeah, at first it was.
Okay,
for the first like 2 or 3 weeks. And Onward was the same way. I think for the first week you had to buy it, and then it was on.
No, Onward you could watch. Onward was digital. You wasn't behind the paywall.
No, I had to pay for it first.
Did you?
So it was it was available on like Amazon and stuff before it was on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
So Disney didn't charge for it once it got on Disney, but for like 2 weeks it was available on Amazon. Like it was like the early preview or something like that.
But I just honestly I feel like. I think the thing that aggravates me is they're saying like, well, this model doesn't work. And I'm like, I don't think it's that. I think it's just that you haven't put anything good enough out yet.
Yeah. Well, they haven't really pushed their cards to the table with Black Widow, because I think I would spend $30 on Black Widow.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I probably would. Like if they were like, oh, we're putting Black Widow out, you pay $30 and then you can sit and watch it. I'm like, yeah, I could do that.
And to be fair, so like I go with my father-in-law. Between the two of us, we probably drop $35 or $40 between snacks and stuff. So, I mean, we still have to buy our food at the house, but that's cheaper. We have something already.
Right.
So it's kind of close to what we do. Like for you and your family, it's significantly cheaper.
Significantly cheaper. But I still haven't done it because there hasn't been a movie to pull me up over that paywall yet.
Yeah. Well, and like
so far it's been like fucking Mulan. Oof.
Well, and I know, so like Scoob and Onward, I think I got those for 20 each.
Okay.
So those got me, but it wasn't the 30. Like there's something about like spending $20 and $30. Like that's a little bit of a bigger jump.
Honestly, the last movie I remember getting like not necessarily day of release, but like week of release, or like something that was that fucking Bill and Ted movie.
Oh yeah, I got that one too. But that was only like $15, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was like 15. That sounds right. Like 12 or 15.
Yeah, and I know like when you say like, oh, you only rent it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it would cost me less in terms of like a Blockbuster world.
Yeah,
but it's not that bad. But yeah, I like the whole like Disney saying like this model doesn't work. Is again, I don't think they've pushed their movie to the center of the table to say, here's Black Widow or, here's the next,
Yeah. Now let's talk. Oh shit. My whole train of thought derailed. When you look at the movies that have been released and are free. Like Amazon put out Borat 2 and Coming to America.
Yeah, I've watched both.
And I watched both. And okay, so watching both, I got done watching both of them and I'm like, that wasn't bad. And I was kind of excited to watch them. And in a way, I almost went, that wasn't bad, but I'm glad I didn't have to pay for it. I mean, even though technically I did pay for it,
yeah. Well, Borat I probably wouldn't have saw in theaters. But Bill and Ted I would have. And then Coming to America I would have. I guess trying to compare like what I would have paid.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it's significantly cheaper and it's kind of the thing my father-in-law and I do. So I could see us going and seeing Coming to America and leaving like, meh, it was okay. Like I wouldn't feel cheated.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, do you feel like since you're watching them at home, do you feel like your level of your bar of excellence is a little bit lower?
100%.
Since you're sitting at home, number one, and number two, like it's you don't feel that immediate sense of money exchanging hands to watch it.
Yeah, there's less of the like, oh man, I should have just rented that feel. Like if the movie's bad enough, it's like, well, okay, like it's over, it's done. And if you go to the theater, and it's more so if there's like a bunch of stuff. So if we chose between Coming to America and like something that was like another movie that ends up being really good, you'd be like, ah, shit, I should have went and saw that other one. But I'm kind of a unique case because with me and my father-in-law, we would just see the other one in 2 weeks.
Right.
Because again, I'm just paying for a ticket. I'm not paying for a family of tickets because my wife doesn't go and my son's not old enough yet.
Right.
But like you, like if you dropped 100 bones for you and your family to go see Coming to America, you'd like, holy shit, this was a waste of fucking money.
Yeah.
But no, that's I would probably say like we'll obviously know more once time comes around because you can Monday morning quarterback everything. But I would say that the two movies I think that are really going to tell us what the future will look like as we're coming out of everything, Black Widow and then The Batman. So if those two movies kind of show that people still love that movie going experience and they make big bucks, I think movie theaters will be around for a little bit longer.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens with. I think you can almost tell even sooner because you got Justice League and you've got
Justice League
Godzilla v Kong. If it was me by myself, like I would pay to go to a theater and watch both of those.
Yeah, but I don't understand how those are going to help determine because those aren't going in theaters. Well, I guess they are.
No, I guess I mean like help determine like if the putting a new release out on a streaming service works.
Well, I think they've already established that does work when you look at things like Scoob, and then Onward did really well.
Okay.
And I think some of those HBO ones have already done pretty well considering. But I'm saying more like in terms of theaters, like if Black Widow comes out, and it doesn't do well, I'm guessing that they're probably going to push whatever else they had planned for this year. And then like if you have the Batman come out, which is going to be a full year after everything, and it doesn't do well, it's because everybody's already been retrained to be like, I don't need to go to the theater to see this. I'm fine with waiting.
Yeah.
I think if that happens, some people may say like, oh, it's just DC sucking again, but I kind of feel like that's just, it's like, no, I go see your movies now because I think they're kind of coming to an end in terms of theater.
Now you need to end us on a high note.
So on a high note, I guess, in terms of the specifically the Last Blockbuster, they do get to keep the name for they got their contract renewed for another year or two. During everything going on in 2020, they've still stayed open. They're still doing very well considering.
Excellent.
And I would say, go watch the Last Blockbuster because it's really entertaining, especially if you live through the Blockbuster age. And then 2, they have some merchandise you can buy on their website.
Oh,
nice. They have like a Blockbuster, what do you call it, where it's laminated, a Blockbuster laminated card you can buy for $2.
Oh, cool.
I've been
debating. Do you feel it ironic that you're watching a movie called The Last Blockbuster on Netflix?
I didn't really make the connection until we started talking about it. Because when I said you had to get The Last Blockbuster on Netflix, like I feel like I should go there to rent this movie. Although they are selling The Last Blockbuster on their website.
There you go. See? Just do that. Fuck Netflix. Just go buy it and watch it yourself on your DVD player. You still have one of those, right?
Yeah. No.
Go do it.
Does PS5 play DVDs? Surely they do.
I don't know.
Not. I'll put it in. They'll be like, what the fuck is this? Spit it out. All right. Well, Richard, as Blockbuster, we got a few minutes to get our DVD in before late fees kick in, and we got a few minutes to pick out a movie. So let us know what your Richard's closing thoughts are.
It's fun to look back, but you don't necessarily. It's fun to look back. It's sad to look back, but it shouldn't make you fearful for the future. There you go. Whoo.
Yeah, those lasting memories of that back room can last a lifetime. Love it. All right, well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website, we're at languagebromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languagebro. Email us at bros@languagebromance.com. Do you think we're going to be the last podcast? I just thought about that.
Probably.
Like 40 years from now, you're like, people used to listen to these on the internet. Whatever,
like,
man.
we heard you said that already.
Yeah. That's cool, Grandpa.
What's a podcast? God damn it.
And as always, I hope when we are the last podcast, we still get these listeners that are on our Patreon. So join our Patreon. And we always like to thank our patrons, Wendy and Aaron. Aaron actually reached back out to us. He's been had some stuff going on, so he hasn't listened recently, but he got jumped back on, has been listening. So Aaron, as always, we like to thank you for being a patron for so long.
You guys you're both the best. Love you the mostest.
Ooh, we would go and we could all 4 pick out a DVD from Blockbuster.
No, we'd pick one and then they could pick their own and then we'll sit and watch them all together.
All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
No, I'm good, sir.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And remember, don't be a why.
Be a why not.
Wait,
Shawn, we're going to open our own Blockbuster. I've decided.
When was that DVD supposed to be returned? Was it Friday or Saturday?
I don't know. I need you to go and get a bank loan and then run to Target.
Oh, $400,000. Here we go.